I'm going to start while Eva is managing our presentation on the screen. I'm going to just tell a few words about who I was before the war, because now I am nothing but an instrument of handling this situation. So before the war started, I was a cultural and event manager at a small NGO in Kiev that was promoting Kiev's underground culture. And before that, I was an immigrant in Germany because I left Ukraine when I was 18, and the economical and political situation back then was already not so great. So my parents decided to move to Germany. We moved, and basically I spent 13 years trying to integrate myself in German society and discover how beautiful the culture of Europe is and the culture of the world. So I studied cultural studies, and then during the pandemic in 2021, I decided to go check out Kiev, and people said there was not so hard restrictions with the pandemic, so I went, and basically I discovered how beautiful the and blossoming underground scene in Kiev was. I was totally amazed because I thought Berlin was the center of the world when it comes to best parties and like best underground. And then I came to my own country and I was like, wow, that's Ukraine, that's where I come from, and it's actually super exciting. So I decided not to go back to Berlin, and I stayed in Kiev in order to learn about my own culture, contemporary Ukrainian culture, and to help them organize events to bring artists from Berlin that I knew of, and organized artists exchange in Kiev for Europeans, raves, festivals, so on and so on. But the war started, and I was in Berlin accidentally on the 22nd of February, and I was like, here I go again. I'm in Berlin. So I joined VITSCHE, which was a self-organized civil movement in Berlin and existed a little bit before I came. So I give a microphone to Eva Yakubovska, my beautiful colleague, who is a co-founder of VITSCHE.
So we are waiting for the presentation because it will help us to tell you a little bit more about the VITSCHE. I will just give you some background. The VITSCHE started at 30 January. We have gone to the streets as the demonstration because for us was quite important that it will be sanctioned isolation for Russia before they will start bomb all our cities. Because we know from the experience of 2014 what does it mean being near Russia. So it means war, because war started 2014. And basically the old people who was back then in VITSCHE, and it was like around 5 people who decided to make this demonstration, was almost all either culture manager or artist. And that's why the demonstration which we have done even before the full-scale invasion war, it was quite performative. We will see the picture after, where you can see how it was like, for example, manifesting the help from Germany, this 5,000 helmets which they actually have not sent yet. We're still waiting for this in Ukraine, but back then, even before the full-scale war invasion, it was quite like funny. And we have gone to the streets with the top on our heads. Actually, it's a little bit remind us about the revolution of dignity. Back then, the people, when it was forbidden to wear the helmets to protect from the police, they was putting everything what they could put on the hand. And actually, it was the manifestation about this rebel movement, I don't know. And then when the full-scale war started, of course, what VITSCHE decided to do, to go to the demonstration. We have done protests for 11 hours without a stop, and it was quite emotional and crazy, and like, I don't know, it was really another world after that everything what you have had before erased. For example, before the full-scale invasion war, we was planning with the VITSCHE to make the lecture about the history of Ukraine, some performances, so completely the culture direction of the organization. But then we changed all became to be the logistic expert in the humanitarian aid, how to the documents and everything. So like basically we started with this, and then when it's a little bit settled down, and also of course we was helping the refugees with the complete illegal accommodation, so it was the private accommodation and everything. But when the Senate like started to try to resolve this challenge, the VITSCHE become to be more, as the VITSCHE was from the beginning, the organization who present the civilian movement. So for us quite important the equal rights and about all Ukrainians, and we like to say how it was after Revolution of Dignity, that the Ukrainians, it's not because of the blood or something like that, it's because of the choice, it's because of the values which you are presented and for what you are standing up. And that's why we are actually continue to work in this field. And of course for us the culture, it's not the tools of the life, it's actually the real life, who are really powerful, who can change everything, who can bring us this possibility to speak with each other, because in Germany we have a little bit problem, and it was really mess on the beginning when the German society communities was trying to help Ukraine, but without the Ukraine. It was the example of one big demonstration when it was like a lot of participants of this demonstration, and they have invited like speakers. They have not invited us. Like first they invited, but after that, when they have seen on our website that we are for the weapons, they cancel our invitation, and the speakers who was from Ukraine, which like PhD doctors and everything, they had a role and also present like organization which existed in Berlin already for 10 years, but in the list of the speakers they have put Ukrainian background. So like, but in the same time from the German side, from international side, they was putting like name of organization, the experts and so on, and the Ukrainians just the background. So actually it's our challenge to fight with, to stand against this, because it's has nothing to do with the equal rights. I will improvise and will go further, because how you see, and this program, it's about the empathy, and actually it's one of the most important tasks in the VITSCHE as well, because we truly believe and we think that it's just the one path how we can fight with everything which are waiting us, and we're speaking right now not just about winning the war, but also about the ecological crisis and everything. We are speaking about the empathy as the most powerful what the humanity get through the century. And just with this we can understand each other, because of course we are completely different, and even in Ukraine we are different, but what have brought for us, I think this all changes is all like challenges which we have got from the 1991 with the first revolution and the first protest march from Donbass to Kyiv for the independence of Ukraine. In the same time as in the Kyiv, it was the Hungry strike, and then in 2004 it was the Orange Revolution, and in 2014. It was, and 13 and 14, it was Revolution of Dignity. So basically, and it's also important to remember, the VITSCHE is actually including the participants who was born in the first revolution, the hunger strike in the Kyiv. Then when we have went to the school and have gone to the school, and when we were studying and like describe and discovering the world, it was the Orange Revolution, and we actually started to take part of this revolution, even we was like in the 6th class. And then Revolution of Dignity, it was our revolution. So basically we are saying all the time about the VITSCHE, that we are born free in Ukraine and get it for change in Berlin. So this generation who has this experience of the revolution and standing for our values, and actually the most important is the experience that we can change something, which we have done 3 times already. It's really powerful for us also to bring this, to bring our point, to stand for our ideas. Could you go to the videos? No, here, yes. And go down, and the first video, the oldest video, large crowd. Perfect. Let's see the video.
In our car, Bucha, Irpin, Gostomel. I went to school. This is where I spent most of my time. This is where my friends live. Почуйте нас! Ембарго! 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 But I want to ask everyone who makes decisions about politics, about economy, is his life worth oil and gas from Russia? Are we worth it or not?
So when we see this video, actually, don't close please YouTube channel of VITSCHE. We will use one more video. And when we see this video, we are seeing the protest first. But actually, it's much more bigger. So first, this exists a really good and powerful quote that the first was broken, the people who was expecting that it will finish soon. The next was the people who was believing that it will never end, and survive just the people who actually was concentrate of some acts, of some movements. And basically what we can see in the demonstration, and it's like some moment when you are joining the demonstration, it's when you're spreading your feeling. It's kind of the performative catharsis, if you can call it like that. But it's like the moment when you're together with the people, you are sharing some points, you're standing for this, you're feeling that you are doing something. And it was the most, I will say, important for the people who was joining the VITSCHE after 24th February, because they was coming to us, they was seeing us, they was coming and saying, okay, I want to help, guys, how we can help. First we was going to the basement, collecting some humanitarian aid, but after, especially the artist and the culture manager started to making it more brightly, like the humanitarian help, it's also the cultural help, it's for bigger distance. And for example, here we have Irina Mavka in this video, which is actually after a couple events which we have made together, she became to be really like angefragte, requested musician in Berlin, and all the time when they come into the stage, they making their own performances, and it's the kind how is the culture right now, that the culture it's the culture understands the own responsibility which the culture has, and how Blazheichuck has said. It's quite true that the culture, it's much more as the tools or like, okay, let's use this to make some beautiful picture. It's actually our path, how to stand for our values, how to stand for the democratic values, how to stand for the democratic future. And the first event I have in the presentation, it was which we have done in the cultural field, was in 18th March, because before it was quite impossible to even imagine to do something except helping the refugees and the humanitarian aid. And for now we have already done 36 events. And when I say this, I mean not just the performances or concerts or, I don't know, small festivals. It's also the events which we are making together with another institution, when we are getting in contact our artists with another institution. Katarina will tell a little bit more about this, and I will just ask Katarina to put the last video. Yes, and one more, the quite important direction for us, because VITSCHE, it's, how I have said, it's the culture who understand their own responsibility. We also understand the big challenge which we have in Germany, because precisely we are living in Germany, and we support and stand with Ukraine for some really craziness which the government bring into us, and yes, and present Ukrainian points and the voices of the actual democratic society, which are mostly stand with Ukraine and standing together with us for embargo and everything. And Timothy Snyder a couple of years ago has said to one scholar in Germany that Germany has understand that Nazi it was bad, but not actually learn and understood that imperialism is also bad. And when you will go to the monument which they have about the war, actually it's all Soviets, and the Soviet War Memorial near Tiergarten has the dates of the war 1941, 1945, so they completely forget the Poland, Pact Molotov-Ribbentrop, and it's also the big, and I think you all hear this in the conversation from Scholz and Anna Baerbock, that when they say, and even before the full-scale invasion war, sometimes even now, some politics continue to say that, yeah, we feel our Schuldgefühle, sorry feelings above the, I'm sorry? Guilt feeling about the Russian because they have supporters that they have like fight with the Nazi and they have saved us. We need to like respect them. We cannot send the weapons. We cannot be against the Russian. So right now not so much, but still it's a peer. And in this moment they forgetting that it was actually also Ukrainian there, Belarusian, and a lot of other nations. And for us it's important to present our not just point in the culture, in history right now, but also before this, to learn fake history. And that's why we have made one video. Katarina, I'm ready. And the last one. We have made this together with the Pilecki Institute before 8th and 9th May. The sounds somewhere. So the first point when you see this, of course, you are thinking that we are demanding the tanks. Of course, it's true, but it's quite more bigger. And with this, we started the series of the even like lections, performances, and so on, which named Legacy of Totalitarismus. The totalitarianism and dictatorship all the time taking our voices, and like how we are repeating in all our events that we are never, as the Ukrainians, let the dictator get our voices down. We are fighting for that, we are standing for that, and that's why we are standing also right now against this totalitarian heritage. We are bringing this misunderstanding, and also, for example, telling that this tanks, it's like Soviets, it's Russian and everything. No, actually it was produced by the Ukrainian producer, like engineer, which actually was sent in Sibir after the Second World War. We can see also how it's actually going with the Soviet Union. It was not how some people imagine that it's like the equal wars and everybody equals, everybody is safe. It was like quite dangerous in 1986, and that's why we are standing for that. And we have already made discussion with the Senate of Berlin, and we was like discussing with them how we can work with this legacy of totalitarianism as this monument, and with these dates that it's ignoring the what Soviets was done before the they start to defeat the Nazi regime, and it's also quite important because if you are speaking about the equal rights, let's be equal with everybody, not just defeating Russian. And for us, right now I will pass the microphone to Katerina, because when we are doing this, we are doing actually this together with the whole Ukrainian brilliant community which are joined VITSCHE. Mostly it's the culture manager, artist, and this video was made together with the Kiev production studio, with the Kiev operator, which are based right now in Berlin. And when we have seen in the first stage of the full-scale war invasion that in our office, which was kindly given us from the Paletsky Institute, was sitting like 200 people, and they was continuing to come and come and come, and it was a big challenge for us how to help them, how to stand and make their own voices spread and be strong. And with this was working precisely the VITSCHE culture, and the curator of VITSCHE culture, Katjia. I invite you to speak.
Thanks, Eva. Wow, that was a lot to take. I hope you guys are okay. So basically, VITSCHE culture had to, well, as I was said, for our first weeks, we had to deal with things that we usually didn't deal in our lives. Like, what do we do with all the refugees that come to Berlin? Berlin is not ready. At the train station is the mess. How do we help our people? How do we send them what they need to Ukraine? How we organize ourselves? Like, we were 7 people at the start, and then we were 100, and everyone wanted to do something. So together with dealing with the crisis, we were dealing with handling our own organization that we never really wanted to have. And basically after 4 weeks we understood that we handled everything quite well, and we're structured now, and all our cultural workers, artists and activists who became activists against the world, they were okay, now we can take care of culture. And as Berlin and Kiev are quite similar as a hub of cultural workers and artists, and like city of freedom where everything is possible, basically all people from Kiev started to go to Berlin, and all people who had to do with culture and arts also went to Berlin, and we were like checking on them. And before the war we were like, oh, how do we show our culture to the world, and how are we gonna be seen and heard? Because it's after the Revolution of Dignity, as I was said, we had some kind of cultural boom, like modern Ukrainian cultural boom. It concerned film, it concerned theater, it concerned performance, it mainly concerned electronic music, and whoever been to Kiev clubs and danced over music and went over raves knows about that. So no wonder that first communities in Berlin who came to us to help was electronic music communities, clubs and cultural workers, because they knew about us better than anyone else did. So we decided to create a Ukrainian culture station and to gather all the artists around us, to give them the safe space, to feel safe, and to consider creating, keep creating basically, to find a good community of like-minded people and to get better. So we as VITSCHE were already quite popular in Berlin among young people, so everyone just wanted to join our movement, and every single artist wanted to volunteer. And we were saying, okay guys, you can of course pack first aid kits for days, but it's not what you made for. You should think what you think and express it the way you used to express it before. So we had this space that we invented, Ukrainian Culture Station, because it wasn't even real. We had just like some kind of space for 1.5 months, and we just imagined it, we 3D scanned it, and like created a metaverse where we could do exhibitions and whatever we wanted to do. and we like kept doing this series of events, which is like a IT hackathon but for art, where like all the artists would come and we would divide them in groups, like cinema group, theater group, music group, visual art group, and they would brainstorm on projects and ideas that are relevant for them in the situation they are in right now. I hope. Thank you. Yeah, so about 45 projects came out of it, and basically they were all a way of responding to the situation and finding force to keep doing the art and culture work. And yes, I hope we're gonna find a real space in Berlin where we can do it. Now we're just using other people's spaces for this. And yeah, as our colleague from Ukrainian Institute who spoke about cultural diplomacy, he already explained that after the revolution in 2014, most people and young people who were born in free Ukraine, they were like, hold on, but we kind of used to have our own culture, who are we? And they started to find their identity back, and now that they're a bit older, someone who's been stealing it for so many centuries is doing this again, but in the most violent way. So yeah, those people, they have to speak. They're going through unprecedented experience. They are working with their own identity in ways that Europe probably has forgotten already. How is it done? So listen to them, take care of them, and please, please, please never do anything for Ukrainians without Ukrainians, because you must check with them how they feel.